we have Marshall Long, the OG Bitcoiner, here with us at the Texas Blockchain Council.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we got. Do you need an introduction or not?
I'll give you a quickie one, just for the folks at home.
Okay, that sounds good.
10th generation Texan, first and foremost, obviously.
Yeah, you got a shout out to Texas.
It's been a long 13 years in Bitcoin mining.
I'm surprised you don't have like gray hair. Like it's not all gray hair at this point.
I'm sponsored by Hair Club for Men.
Okay,
so
all right.
They got me looking right. And yeah, currently I'm SVP at Rodeo Mining. And yeah, we're mining in Texas, baby.
Doing a bunch of it.
Oh, yeah.
Doing behind the meter.
No, we're all on
grid. Okay,
yep.
All right. And how many megawatts are you guys up to?
We
or
have
terahash?
Currently we have 350 megawatts, like either already deployed or in the process of being deployed.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys put that together. You, Nathan.
Yeah, so the company was started by myself, Nathan Nichols, who is chairman of the mining committee at TBC.
Yep. That's
Nick,
the only reason he's on here, not because he has the credibility,
right.
just because he's already.
I'm just the guy who they just tell to go and do things. Nick, and then the brothers Chase and Cameron.
Okay, very cool. And you guys have been, how long has it been?
We started in 2019. We officially started hashing in 2020.
So 2020, so really just 2.5, 3 years
That's right.
to get up to 350 megawatts.
That's right. It's big shout out to Nathan. He was very pivotal in helping us get to where we are as quickly as we did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a whole different ball game now.
Nathan and I were talking at the summit
Uh-huh.
about just your guys' approach is more from a standpoint of managing risk.
Yeah.
And I guess he's got a background from Blackman Mooring.
That's right.
And just all that catastrophe, dealing with catastrophe, dealing with risk.
That's right.
And that's where you guys have come out.
Yeah, our ethos as a company is you want to be the Jon Snow of Bitcoin, right? Winter's coming. Winter's coming all the time.
Yeah.
And when it's bright and sunny out. Because the nature of the commodities business, right? If you think of Bitcoin mining as a commodities business, it's up and down, and you're a slave to the price.
Yeah.
And if you can control everything perfectly, which is a huge if,
Yep.
you still have the variance of the price. And so the more risk averse you are,
right,
the longer legs you will have as a company. You might not crush it as hard as people who lever up real hard when the price is running up, but you're also not going to suffer the big dips when the price goes down either.
You're not the reason that everything is liquidating.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you guys store in Bitcoin? You guys store? When you're looking at the success of a project, are you pricing based on dollars? Are you pricing based on Bitcoin? How are you looking at that?
It depends on where you need to spend capex, right?
Okay.
So if you need to buy new mining machines, you need to be very cognizant of the current Bitcoin price. If you're doing let's say you need new power infrastructure, you need to be more cognizant of what the general demand curve looks like at large for that. If you need a transformer, right?
Right, yeah.
So, maybe 2 years ago, transformers were really hard to come by, but people over-ordered, and those transformers are getting delivered now. So if you need them, now's a great time to buy transformers, and also right now is a great time to buy miners, just because the price is depressed right now. So it's all about timing the markets and just making good choices and being good capital allocators.
I think that's you've been in the space for 13 years, so you've got a little bit of experience with managing the flow of the business. Do you use any of those contacts or the business that you're working in to sell to other miners? Do you have that as a portion of your business where you have access to transformers, you have access to information flow for those?
It's interesting. It's we're talking about how the ecosystem works together. From the outside looking in, it seems like all miners are competitive, right? And maybe adversarial. It's interesting you bring that up. That's not actually the case. There's enough, by nature, Bitcoin mining, there's enough pie for everybody. And if there's somebody in the space that has something that you need that maybe they have too many of, it's real easy to pick up the phone and be like, hey, can I buy this from you? And they'll just give you a great price. It's like a real neighborly type situation. Okay. And we do that too, right? So if somebody says, hey, I can't find this type of pipe or transformer or whatever, and we have extra, for sure. We sell things back and forth to each other. And I think that's what most people outside not even outside Bitcoin, but just like outside of the mining sector specifically, don't really understand is how tight everybody is.
It's a really small world.
It's super small, and there's enough room for everybody, and it used to be a lot more secretive, like 2012, 13, 14, getting people to give you any details about their operation or, what their power price is. And back in those days, 20 megawatts, if you had 20 megawatts, you were God. Yeah, you were God if you had 20 megawatts,
Is that where your Twitter handle came from?
Yeah, exactly. So that's, the current state of things it's very communal, and it's great now because now we have a common enemy in regulation.
Where do you think that the industry, you bring up the enemy in regulation, where do you think that the industry needs to do a better job working together? What players do you see kind of rankling focusing their attention internally versus externally towards that regulation side?
Yeah, I think a good player in this space, Riot, they really come to mind. They're amazing on the media. They're very quick to respond. They've got Pierre over there who's really doing a great job making good content to kind of like rebut a lot of the misinformation that lawmakers are using to make choices.
Yep.
So they're a good example. But I think it's also interesting to see how quickly the ecosystem kind of like overnight formalizes to approach a common goal. So when 1751 is that the
53?
53 came down.
I think that's right, Lee. If I get that wrong, you're gonna have to please forgive me.
Don't be mad. The tenacity and the quickness of all Texas miners coming together very quickly over like Telegram and email and phones was basically overnight. So it's when we see a common goal that is good for everyone. The ecosystem's very good at like uniting.
Yeah.
I think we could probably do a better job at when we're not at war. Yeah. Being a bit more kind of neighborly, I would say.
Yeah, I think we're, when we have a common enemy, like you said, we have the common enemy. It's very easy to direct that attention outside, and it does seem that there's a bit of tribalism that can break up when times are good, and everybody's doing well.
That's right.
You start to find things that rankle you, and it might be with a competitor, it might be with someone.
And that's why things like TBC are so super critical because, the TBC calls are a place for everybody, like, have a touch point with everybody at least, every so often so that you're not just a faceless company. It's like, oh yeah, this guy, Kevin at Pull In or Samantha at BitDeer, it's TBC is a critical role to serve in corralling the wagons, as it were.
We appreciate that. We're going to give you the $20 as we get off camera here to get that plug. Now, how long have you been mining? Tell us a little bit about getting started in mining. I know everybody should know this, but for the three people that don't know this, how did you actually come across mining from the very beginning?
It's a good question. So I was working on an iPhone app at the time.
Okay.
With a friend of mine, and
the original iPhone
in 2010, and a friend said, "Hey man, like I was looking around online last night, and there's like this nerd money that you can like make with your computer." And I was like, "What?" And so I immediately went home, took apart my computer, and there wasn't like YouTube videos that you could research, and there wasn't even pools at the time, so it was, just try to figure this out and read through the code, and so I spent a couple of weeks just tinkering. Got my gaming computer running, got my laptop mining, and
how strong was that gaming computer?
It was just CPUs at the time.
Okay.
And so the hash rate on those, we're talking mega hashes per second.
Yeah.
And kilohashes per second. And I think the first time I saw an ASIC, the hash rate on it was 5 mega hashes per second, and I was like, this is a big deal. Because before then, a graphics card was like 700 kilohashes per second. So the state of the compute has changed dramatically. But, once you tap out the power in your apartment and you start getting phone calls from people like, you're heating up the other apartments around you and they can't cool their apartment, what is going on in there?
Right, and then the intelligence agencies are getting a heads up that, hey, this guy is running
There's something weird stuff going on in there. And then, your girlfriend can't plug in her hairdryer without tripping all the breakers. A lot of people have that same story, and then it just kind of progressed from there. And then I was fortunate enough to go to China, work on a few chips at the time. And
that's pretty brave running over to China. I mean, you hear stories of guys doing it at the very beginning.
As a Texan who's never been outside the country before, in 2013 going to China, working on projects. First place I went was Wuhan, actually. And it was...
and you're not exactly dark-skinned.
I don't speak anything.
You're very clearly
a
white boy from Texas.
And all I knew was how to say taxi. And show people an address on my phone. And, I figured it out. So.
Hey, you've gotten here. So you've got
get off the train from Shanghai. Hey, where the Chuzu Cho at? And then you.
They just kind of look at you like,
okay, and you just kind of figure it out. So
yeah. So now your most recent one is you're going to Kenya.
Yeah, that's
now.
right.
Do they do the same thing? Do they look at you the same way as?
It's interesting. Kenya is a really unique place on the planet. So for a long time, there was no civilization like at large in Kenya, like no big central population. There's only been population for the past maybe 100 years, because in Kenya specifically, there is just a land of abundance. There's, you got the Maasai people who are, they're in the Mara, what some people call Serengeti, where there's just food everywhere. There's animals running around. So
Does you have a lion story with the Serengeti?
I do.
Okay, all right.
So in Kenya, it's fascinating. It is an extremely diverse population, which I was not expecting. And people just kind of get along there. They haven't had any major wars. They haven't had any major civil wars. It's one of the small places in Africa that hasn't had a ton of conflict. And so I was expecting to go there and have a similar experience to China, where it's very clear I don't belong here.
Yeah.
But in Kenya, I did not get that at all.
Really?
And it was just like, oh, hey, what's up?
There's
one of the homies.
Yeah.
What up? And so the project over there is fascinating. I'm hopeful for mining.
Yep.
Because of all the good it can do, and Kenya just spotlights all the good mining can do.
Yeah.
With the gridless project, it's awesome.
What are you guys doing over there?
Yeah, sure. So full disclosure, I'm just an investor of that project. I don't run it.
You got some pretty cool co-investors though with that project, right?
Yeah. So Jack Dorsey's a co-investor. Elise Colleen's
He's not as big as you are though. He's not the OG. He's
got a better Twitter handle than me though. That's
he does have a better Twitter handle.
It's a great project. So in Africa in general, they don't have nice grids like we do here.
Okay.
If you have power and you don't live in a large center population, you are buying power from a local private generator, where he's got a turbine that he chucked in the river behind your house, and you buy power from him directly. Problem is, you're only buying power from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. probably to charge your phone and turn the lights on. Because of that, and because there's no grid, he has no other way to sell the power, but the river's still running.
Right.
And so he can only sell power for 4 hours a day, and so therefore he has to sell his power for a very high price to recoup his capex on the turbine. So the power price is 70, 80 cents a kilowatt hour, where in Texas, it could be 10 cents or less. And people cannot afford to buy hot plates to cook their food because they can't afford the power. It's crazy expensive. And so they're cooking food on fires and using paraffin to do that, and that causes all kinds of infant mortality issues. And so long story short, Gridless has this idea where they partner with the generators to allow them to be a real-time. The Bitcoin miner is the buyer of last resort in these situations. So they partner with a generator to buy power when they're not selling it to the community.
Yeah.
So they're able to curtail quickly when the community comes home from work, and when the community goes to sleep, they fire back up. And they're doing a revenue share with the generator. And the generator then is making way more mining Bitcoin effectively, and they in turn drop the power price for the community. So that was the initial pitch I got, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I went there.
And how much power is that? How much power are we talking about?
So the mini grids range in size. Gridless currently has sites that are 50 kilowatts, and they have sites that are 10 megawatts.
Okay.
So they have,
the whole range.
The whole gamut. All renewables, water, hydro, geothermal, whatever. And so I thought it's a good story. Let me go check it out. And so I talked to their first customer, and he said that they've been doing this for about a year. They just had a small deployment. And I said, how has that impacted you? You save money on your power bill? And he said, I don't even care about that. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, because my power is cheaper, I can run my sprinklers longer and my hay fields grow taller, so I can feed my cows more. He's making 3 times more money on beef because his cows are eating way more because he can afford to water his grass more. And that didn't even register before.
The ancillary effects, the second and third order
it's not even second order. It's just immediate. Like, you see the miners, the guy that lives at the top of the hill that has cattle is now making 3 times more money.
Right. It's just not what you anticipated when you first went into the deal.
It was earth-shattering. I was like, people always say what good Bitcoin can do, and here in the West, we're very privileged. I turn the light switch on, the light comes on.
Yeah.
And most people don't understand like how much insanity went into making that the reality. People like Brad Jones had a big hand in like the Texas power grid is one of modern engineering's modern marvels. It's a huge thing, but because we've had it for so long, we just take it for granted.
We take it for granted. I mean, I think when you travel outside of the United States, you travel outside of areas that have that reliable power.
That's right.
I think that's, go back to, we're looking at it from the perspective of what we have and what we're used to.
That's right.
Versus what other people are used to. So, I think there's some apps that show the living conditions around the world. And like you're saying, the hot pot, something that they wouldn't even register on our,
That's
for
right.
us,
That's right.
is massive and life-changing for someone else.
Yeah, especially in like Kenya, there's a lot of agrarian cultures, and so people are getting direct benefit from Bitcoin mining. And it's not just like, oh, we're stabilizing the grid. All those things are great, but when I say that kid in that village didn't die of smoke inhalation because their parents can afford to run a hot plate to cook the food because of Bitcoin mining, it's a whole different ballgame at that point.
That's going to be, I mean, it's just such a powerful thought, a powerful mission. That's going to give you a lot of fulfillment.
Yeah, well, here's the best part, too, is I've tried to run a ton of nonprofits, right? You're only as good as your last donor's ability to donate, right?
Yep.
And there's tons of good missions and causes and all that kind of stuff. But the gridless model, everybody's making money. Everybody. The generator, gridless, the customers at the end of the power company, and their downstream effects as well. So it's like having the direct impact of a nonprofit, but it's sustainable because everybody's making money.
Do you see the impact of that, of doing it in Kenya? Do you see that as ultimately having more influence on the energy markets over time versus trying to sell it in places like New York, selling that idea in places like New York, places that have energy currently?
Yeah. So I think if we come back to the States, what's interesting with mining is as more renewables come online, everybody that's on the regulatory side that wants to kill Bitcoin, you'll see very quickly how hard it is to run a grid with renewables, just because the sun's not always shining and people aren't always awake when the wind's blowing. So I think, talking about Brad again, he does a great job of painting that picture.
We love you, Brad. Thank you so much for helping for the Texas Blockchain Council.
It's a
all
big
the work
deal.
that you did yesterday at the Capitol building.
Because, it's one thing to hear the miners saying like, no, like we're helping people. But for the guy who used to run the entire grid to say like, it's for real. I think those messages are super important going forward. Because it's easy to paint a picture in Kenya, right, with this technology. But that doesn't necessarily resonate with people back home. So if you use lessons learned there back here, I think it starts to evolve.
And I think one of the things you mentioned earlier, in Kenya, it's people are looking at this for survival and for their children to live.
That's right.
That's a very high incentive for them to get to integrate this and solve real problems in their lives. And in the West, we're a lot more privileged, and so then it can become more territorial, where people want credit for having fixed something. So maybe the best person that's there to resolve that issue, you have other people that want that credit, and so they're trying to edge in. So you have legislators that are like, hey, I want to be seen as fixing this problem.
Right.
And sometimes they just create problems that they want to,
They make problems so they can fix them.
Right. They want to, hey, I tore this down and I rebuilt it. Hey, look at what I built. And so I think that's, some of the things that, Brad's helping us navigate here in Texas. What do you think that we need to do from our side to do better on the Texas Blockchain Council? What are we doing well? What can we do better at? I'm gonna put you on the spot, Lee. This is like, you can tear us down a little bit, or you can build us up.
I think you guys are doing a great job at coordinating the community. I think you guys are doing an incredible job at pinpointing potential regulatory hurdles. To be honest, I don't really have many critiques. To tell you the truth,
critiques
man.
on that. He gets another $20 for that later.
I don't know. I mean, you could at your conference have more barbecue.
More barbecue. We can do that. I think Ryan would be good for more barbecue on that, for sure.
I mean, you guys are crushing it.
Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate you stopping by today.
Right on.
And
Thanks for having me.
and then I'm trying to think of any last ditch questions. Anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
How does my hair stay so
I think
fresh?
it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Your hair is beautiful. All right, excellent. Well, thanks for stopping by today.
Cheers, man.
All right.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. We had a great time here at Consensus. At the Texas Blockchain Council, we are striving to be the nexus between traditional industries, banking, finance, legal, energy, and the digital asset industry. So we want to help you get your brand in front of those kinds of companies with B2B opportunities. Reach out to us if that's of interest for membership or for sponsorship at the summit. Hope to see you there in November in Fort Worth. Thanks again. We look forward to seeing you at the summit.